Welcome to Jimmy B Week for cancer research on ESPN as we continue our commitment to the V Foundation and Jim Valvano's dream to defeat cancer. It's time for college basketball here from Williams Arena in Minneapolis as the Privateers of New Orleans take on the Golden Gophers here of Minnesota. Hi everyone, with Rich Sabozek, this is BJ Shaven. Rich, these two teams are trying to make some strides as they continue on throughout the season. For Minnesota, trying to continue their winning ways, and for New Orleans, they're trying to break a three-game losing streak.
Well, New Orleans coming back from the abyss. Mark Schlesinger in his third year has taken the team from Division III back to Division I. Minnesota, Richard Pitino has the Gophers moving in the right direction. Big win against Florida State the other night.
Well, as we take a look at today's one-on-one, both teams really like to play some hard-nosed defense.
Both teams will come at you with an array of full-court pressure, trying to force turnovers. As you can see, New Orleans doing an excellent job, almost 20 turnovers a game. Minnesota very good at turning turnovers into points. Whoever values the ball the best tonight will come out ahead.
Let's look at today's lineups. For New Orleans, they're going to go with McPherson, Mack, Darren Becker, along with Hill and Bourgeois. For Minnesota, it'll be Hollins, Matthew, Hollins, Oshnicks, and Walker. The head coach for Minnesota, Richard Pitino, in his first season here. And one thing that he stressed to us, Rich, was the fact that, well, he wanted to see more defense as far as for the pressure being applied onto the floor. Speaking of pressure on the other side, for New Orleans, they're looking for the exact same thing.
New Orleans wants to turn you over. Mark Schlesinger is going to play 10, 11 guys. In the past, it has been like hockey. They will change 5 guys at a time. Let's see what his strategy is here today.
In his third season, and you had mentioned earlier, he wasn't sure exactly what he had when he took the head coaching position. Now, the Bloomington, Indiana native gets a chance here to coach at Williams Arena. And the barn, well, they're loaded up for this one here today. Minnesota will be wearing their home whites. And for the Privateers, they're away gray with the trim of blue. Here's your officials today: Eric Curry, Rob Kuhneman, and Rob Kruger. And we are ready to go as Maurice Walker, along with Kevin Hill, tipped it up there. Minnesota has the ball to get this one underway, and right away a turnover as DeAndre Matthew tried to pitch it to his right to Andre Hollins, and a little miscommunication there. And right away, Coach Pitino goes to his bench, and Maverick Ahadmasi will check in. Coach Pitino stressed communication during their shoot-around earlier today. As here's Matthew, gets a quick deuce off the turnover.
Minnesota at their best. Turn defense into offense. Pick up your dribble, they take advantage.
McPherson trying to avoid the trap. Here's Darren Becker.
Quick shot, something that Minnesota wants.
And for the Gophers, well, they're opening up a nice little stand here. They're actually in the midst of a 7-game homestand as they go inside as Walker gets the bucket, and the Gophers have a 4-0 lead. Darren Becker nearly turned it over. Bourgeois will come up with it.
Pull it back out for New Orleans. Set up your half-court offense. Settle down.
Mack in the lane. Gets the bucket for the Privateers. This was the first game that New Orleans has played since right before Thanksgiving. That last game was in Hawaii, and what a temperature change if you're just looking at the elements outside. From a nice sunny 88 on the beach here to Minneapolis, where the low overnight was nearing double digits, below 0.
Minnesota switching defenses again, back into 2-3 zone. Try and keep New Orleans off balance.
Here's Tredarius McPherson. He got his first start of the season working against the zone. 10 on the shot clock. McPherson really caught up. Now the shot by Hill. Off the mark. Bourgeois with a rebound and can't get the putback, but there's Darren Becker. And the Privateers crash the glass. And they've got this one tied up at 4 and a timeout taken by Minnesota.
BJ, in last night's practice with New Orleans, they came in and for an hour and a half, they were intense, they were enthusiastic, very aggressive, and we've seen that from the outset here tonight, or today. Offensively, if they will be patient when they break the press, they will be effective in the half court.
Cold weather has struck all parts of the country, but look at the difference in weather today. Down in New Orleans, right at 44. Here in Minneapolis, -1. And tomorrow, well, they're going to be greeted with 61 degrees. Wow, the weatherman really has to be happy in New Orleans right now. One, because he's there.
Well, we were talking with Coach Pitino earlier today in practice about he was at FIU last year down in Miami. Minnesota is a little bit colder than Miami is this time of year.
Another quick timeout, and Coach Pitino has to be upset the way his team has been communicating here so far offensively. Here's Hollins, his 3 off the mark. And the rebound comes down to Minnesota.
New Orleans comes out of that timeout, changes defense back into a 2-3 zone.
Joey King also into the game for the first time here for the Gophers. Ahanmasi with the 3. And the Gophers have the lead once again.
Great ball pressure in the full court. Speed the ball up is a mantra that's preached by Coach Pitino.
Hill will hand it off here to Mack. Now 10 on the shot clock. Privateers really being patient with the ball around the perimeter. Down to 5. Here's Darren Becker on the block working on King. And he stepped out of bounds. Another turnover here for New Orleans. Minnesota passing the ball really well here.
Good patience against the zone. They move it, swing it side to side. Ahanmasi with the 3.
Minnesota, a team that has been shooting the ball extremely well from 3-point range, also from the foul line. So they've got some shooters for Coach Pitino here lined up this season. At the top, that's Matthew driving it in. King overshot the hoop. Walker inside. Count it. Reese Walker. This could be a game that he has to take advantage of from what we were told prior to.
He does a good job of finding inside position away from the ball. Gives himself a chance for a 3-point play. Walker is an interesting young man. When Coach Pitino took over the program, Walker, let's just say, was a little bit heavier. Since then, he has lost 65 pounds in preparation for this year.
The foul was on Kevin Hill. That's his first. Corey Dixon into the contest now for New Orleans. Had started the previous 4 games, now coming off the bench where he had struggled in their last contest at Hawaii, scoring just 4. But normally a double-digit score, and he looks to attack right away and will draw contact. And this one will be going against Minnesota's Joey King. And that'll bring us to a timeout on the floor. The Gophers on a 6-0 run have a 10-4 advantage.
Presented by Blue Cross Blue Shield.
If you laugh, you think. If you laugh, you think, and you cry, that's a full day. That's a heck of a day.
It's Jimmy V Week on the ESPN family of networks. Again, to donate, log on to jimmyv.org or call 800-4JIMMY-V. Minnesota on a 6-0 run have a 10-4 lead. Foul a moment ago was on Maverick Amisi. And here's Hollins attacking the rim and getting the deuce.
Hollins, Johnny on the spot, able to pick up as a trailer.
His first bucket of the ball game for Austin. And now another steal for him. Not a huge surprise, and a quick foul on Bourgeois. As Hollins
in transition, it's Austin Hollins, who doesn't assume that his teammates are going to make the layup. He follows it up and is able to pick up an easy one. Nice finish with the left.
6'4" senior out of Germantown, Tennessee, 10th on the Gophers' all-time steals list. New Orleans with 4 turnovers to Minnesota's just 1. Now Andre Hollins into the ball game. For the work we go with the Privateers, who've had a tough time measuring up against Minnesota's defense, taking the shot clock pretty late.
Minnesota showing a little 2-3 zone, very aggressive on the ball.
Dixon with the low skip, now to Darren Becker with 5 on the shot clock. They'll reset late. This is Mack using the glass with authority as he really took it hard. Isaiah Mack playing a lot of minutes, back-to-back games in which he's played over 30 minutes. And the rebound comes down to McPherson. Goes up, and it will stay with New Orleans. And Coach Mark Schlesinger also going to his bench. Tevin Broyles now into the game for Minnesota. Otto Oshnick's into the contest. Walker will sit along with King. And Andre Hollins, along with Austin Hollins and Amisi into the game. And Elliot Eliason also in for Minnesota. Here's a 3. Off the mark, and the Gophers come away with a rebound. Here's Oshnick's. Foul called here against New Orleans.
This is a change in the rule. Watch, a little bit of hand. You can see the hand by Darren Becker. Last year, that little hand touch, no foul. This year, the change in the rule, it's an automatic call.
That'll be Darren Becker's first personal. Oshnick's able to connect.
BJ, look for a different press off the made free throw. On made field goals, Minnesota's put a man on the ball, but on the miss, no pressure.
Minnesota, you see, on a long run here.
This is a very aggressive zone. You can see they're trying to trap. Look how far out New Orleans has had to start their offense. Got to try and get it into that foul line area, the sweet spot, and put the zone back on their heels.
10 on the shot clock. Here's Dixon. And it'll be turned over for the moment. Minnesota up with a loose ball, but they're going to call it a shot clock violation.
DJ, two guys diving on the floor. I love when teammates will watch it. We're going to see it again. We're going to see guys giving up skin for their teammates. Ball goes loose. Dive on the floor. There you go. Good hustle.
Well, Coach Pitino said that loose balls have really been the key to their season to this point. Getting them.
Well, it's all about how you go after a loose ball. Do you go full out? Right there, you see Minnesota diving on the ground for it.
Here's Matthew. Good ball movement. That's Andre Hollins.
Unselfishness. The extra pass.
New Orleans just looking to get a shot off. They've turned it over on 5 of their last 6 possessions. Got a shot there. And the rebound comes down to Wally Ellenson, who just checked in. Now driving it. Hollins again. And he'll go to the line. Boy, some really good ball movement by Minnesota early on, and they've gotten some good looks at the basket.
A great penetration. Oceanex doesn't have his feet set, makes the extra pass. The basketball gods, and Hollins delivers.
That last foul on Tevin Broyles. And we've got a timeout with 12:39 here in the first half as New Orleans bringing timeout. Well, Minnesota under the direction of a new head coach and Richard Pitino. One of the things that he wanted to install right away was a lot of pressure. And as you take a look at his resume over the years, you know where that defensive pressure comes from.
Well, one of the things that he has a history of being a part of is rebuilding programs. At Northeastern and Duquesne, he went there with Ronnie Everhart. They rebuilt the Northeastern program, moved on to Duquesne, and then when he goes down to Florida International, it was a program that to say was moribund might be an understatement, and he takes them to the Sun Belt Championship game in his first year and now has Minnesota excited about the Gophers.
One of the things he's wanted to do was to increase tempo, and how you do that is with a lot of pressure defense. At Florida International, his team averaged over 10 steals per game. And here so far this year, Minnesota just averaging over 8. But they have been able to get to the line a lot, as Andre Hollins is there now, an 87% free throw shooter.
Well, what that tells you is by them getting to the free throw line is they're not settling for jump shots. They get to steal, they get to the rim, they get fouled.
A lot of pressure as the Privateers able to break it. Here's Mack. Dixon grabbed it when it was on the cylinder, so no basket.
Actually, a good play by Mack. He doesn't settle for the jumper. Once they break the press, gets all the way to the rim. Unfortunately, doesn't finish.
Out on the floor from Minnesota, Oceanex, Walker, Andre Hollins, Matthew, and Ellenson. They go inside to Walker. And Darren Becker will clear it for New Orleans. In the last game, New Orleans just shot 28% from the field and a 91-58 loss to Hawaii. Here today, not getting off to a good start either, but they've turned the ball over a lot. Now a foul here on Minnesota. 6 turnovers so far by the Privateers. They find themselves down 18-6 as Minnesota has been able to get 10 points off of those turnovers.
Check out the video board to vote for the Caribou Coffee Play of the Week. As a guy who makes calls on Sundays, here's a weak side. Austin Hollins from Maverick BC. That electric Andre Hollins to the left. He'll stop and pop a 3. Got it! He's 3 for 3 from deep, and the Gophers lead by 6. A turnover. Oh, a fancy behind the back dribble, Matthew. Wow, for Hollins! What a dunk! Gophers by 15. Vote for your favorite by texting play 1, play 2, or play 3 to 65017. Two lucky fans will win a $25 Caribou gift card just for playing. Play of the week will be announced during today's halftime. Life is short. Stay awake for it. Do you want to be as lucky as the fans in section 105? Keep an eye out early in the second half for the Holiday Station Stores Mini Ball Toss. One lucky fan will catch the Holiday Blue Planet Mini Ball from Goldie and will win a $100 Holiday Stations. Says Holiday Station Stores gift card.
Here at Williams Arena, of course, today, Pearl Harbor Day, 1941. You have to go back to Bruce Smith. Not only was he a Gopher, but he was a Patriot. He was a halfback on the team that won national championships in 40 and 41 and received the Heisman 2 days after the Pearl Harbor attack. And he has one of the more famous quotes during his acceptance speech during that time when he talked about how football had helped him and should help the rest of America in the upcoming war. As he said, I think America will owe a great debt to the game of football if teaching, team playing, cooperation, and an exercise to go out and fight hard for the honor of our schools, then likewise the same skills can be depended on when we have to go to battle for our country. Into action here, 18-6, Minnesota with the advantage here on New Orleans.
Minnesota looking to try and trap that first pass. New Orleans trying to take time off the clock, doing a good job of spacing, but got to try and get the ball to the baseline.
Bourgeois to Darren Becker, now one on the shot clock. There's a shot at the horn. Would have counted had it gone. And the rebound to Isaiah Mack.
Mark Schlesinger has decided we're going to try and take the air out of the ball, make them chase us. If they can hit the high post or low post area, good things will happen.
Dixon fumbled it, and Walker comes up with the turnover. Here's Matthew. Count it. How about DeAndre Matthew, the transfer into this program, and he puts it in transition in high gear.
Mishandled pass leads to an easy basket. Slow in conversion, New Orleans is, and Matthew takes advantage. Good finish. Great job of keeping his eyes right at the rim.
DeAndre able to hit the free throw there. 20-6, Minnesota with the advantage. As New Orleans goes back to their bench, Terrence Sion, the junior from Fort Worth, Texas, will come in. Privateers looking for something offensively that could be positive. Right now, a 17-2 run here by the Gophers. Here's Dixon. That's one way to get it going offensively, get the ball in his hands. Hollins from the corner. Now Dixon. Might have been partially deflected, and the rebound tracked down by Minnesota. Everything going the Gophers' way. And this one out of bounds, so the Privateers will get it back.
BJ, let's go back to this last possession. Look at the spacing for New Orleans. Because they were so wide, when the ball was put on the floor, there was no help. So Dixon gets an easy look at the rim. So look for New Orleans to try and space the floor a little bit better.
New Orleans will try to get it into Dixon again. Trying to use his body to clear space.
Good patience. Good patience by the senior.
He's averaging better than 16 points a game. He's actually led the team in rebounding or scoring in every game to this point. Here's King. Walker has it denied by Dixon. Now Mack to work as they'll slow it down once again.
So New Orleans taking a different approach after that last timeout. They're not going to be sped up anymore. They're going to pull it out, make Minnesota work, cut the clock in half before they attack the defense.
An 11-point lead for the Gophers. Mack with 2 on the shot clock. Can't get it to fall. And this one out of bounds on New Orleans. Last touch by McPherson.
If you're a young player, understand this. Big defender, throw the ball on the ground. If it's a little defender, as it was that case with Dixon, put the ball in the air. Make it easy for your post guy to catch it.
Kristavius Gill into the contest for New Orleans, along with Kevin Hill. Hill, who wears protective headgear, or number 15, because of concussions, or the fear of getting a concussion during a game. He suffered quite a few during practice this season already. Now here's Gill with the ball. New Orleans being very patient offensively when they set it up in the half court. All part of their game plan, Rich.
Stretch the defense out, and it opens things up.
As they find, Gill finds Hill for the bucket. And this game down to 9. Minnesota has 3 consecutive turnovers. They have 4 for the game, so making 4 straight turnovers, and will bring us to a timeout on the floor. 7:35 to play here in the first half. The Gophers still shooting it well from the perimeter. They've got the lead.
I don't think we understand how much this research has made it. I don't think we understand how much this research has made a difference in so many people's life. Cancer, while it's still a deadly, terrible disease, so many lives have been saved by the research that happened because of Jimmy V.
Help us beat cancer. The V Foundation awards 100% of the direct donations to fund cancer research. Operating expenses are paid for by an endowment fund. Log on to jimmyv.org or call 800-4JIMMY-V to donate. 21-12, Minnesota with the advantage on New Orleans. But the Privateers, seems like, Rich, because of their style and the way they're playing here, have been able to get this one a little bit closer. It seems like it's closer than what the scoreboard appears.
Well, they've settled down. They aren't playing at the frantic pace that Minnesota wants them to play. And the tables have turned. Through the first 9 minutes, Minnesota had 1 turnover. The last 4, Minnesota has had 4 turnovers, while New Orleans has only had 1.
Lineson picks up the foul.
Yeah, the big fella gets caught in the squat, doesn't move his feet. Easy call for the official.
This could be interesting. Terrence Sion at the line. He's a 17% free throw shooter. And looking for encouragement here as he fires up his next opportunity.
New Orleans showing a little different defensive look out of the missed free throw. Pretty close to a 10-second count.
There's Andre Hollins. He'll be at the point for Minnesota. Now Austin with it. Amasi. Now here's King. Amasi in the lane. Going to draw contact and will go to the line.
Good decision by Minnesota. Joey King, get the defense scramble. First ball fake, move the first defender. All of a sudden he had to help, he had to recover, and Amasi able to get into the lane, draw the foul.
Ahamisi at the line. Able to make the free throw. And Dixon will return to the lineup here for New Orleans. Mavericks' next shot a little short. And the rebound to Hill. Bourgeois in the paint. Hill can't get the tip in. And Hollins just loses the handle. Well, here's Kevin Hill, the sophomore out of Louisiana, wearing that protected headpiece because of concussions. He's not suffered during a game, but in practices. Looks like a prize fighter and goes inside for the title, but has it knocked away by Eliason. Here's a three from the corner. And Hollins fouled and will go to the line to shoot three.
Oh, don't foul the jump shooter. It's my pet peeve.
Well, Eliason really got things started on the defensive end.
Eliason, good recovery. The long arm of the law sweeps it away.
Hollins able to connect on the free throw. Had 16 points the other night in the victory against Florida State. And he gets one more here. Into the ball game, DeAndre Matthew. Gophers leading the Big Ten in free throw shooting. So a team you really don't want to put at the line. 77% on makes this year. And in fact, that's currently the highest team free throw percentage in the history of the program to this date. As you take a look at the free throw numbers here early on, and free throws were a big key for the Gophers in their victory against Florida State. As Dixon gets it into the paint.
Great stick-to-activity by Dixon. Gets the tip.
Turnover. Bourgeois will put it ahead. 2-on-1. Here's Dixon. And he's going to be pushed by Matthew. So Corey Dixon will go to the line to shoot two here.
BJ, what you were talking about with free throws for Minnesota. And before we talk about that, let's take another look at the little tie-up here. King with almost a headlock on Hill. But both players just jostling around there.
Let's take a look at the foul here on Dixon.
A little bump. Matthew late in transition.
And Dixon never really had an opportunity to try to flip it up.
You know, don't give them an easy basket. Make them earn it at the line. Dixon does. The made free throw, you see New Orleans is going to try a little full court pressure.
Dixon now with 7 points in the game.
Going to show a diamond press. Most of the time they'll fall back into a 2-3.
King for three. That's what can happen when you break the pressure down. And now a steal here by Minnesota. Oshnick's and one opportunity.
That is what Coach Schlesinger was worried about going into the game. These mini runs by Minnesota. And we'll see that in transition, conversion to half court, New Orleans slow, King makes them pay, and then they get a steal on the inbounds pass and a chance for a three-point play with Issac.
Have doubled up the Privateers. Make it a 16-point lead, the biggest lead of the game here for the Gophers. And now a timeout taken here by New Orleans with 5:06 to play here in the first half. There's Richard Pitino. Of course, that name, Pitino, resonates in college basketball and in just the game of basketball. But there are a lot of other famous father-son combinations. As we take a look at the list here, you have Don and Dan Munson.
Dan got it started. Gonzaga got that program rolling. The Hall of Famer Bobby Knight, Pat Knight now down at Lamar, and Thompson's both coaching at Georgetown, and Dick Bennett, who was here in Wisconsin in the Big Ten, then went to Washington State where his son Tony took over for him and now is doing an outstanding job in Virginia. Then you got Eddie's son, Homer Drew, who not only have one son, they double it up. They got two sons, Sean and Scott. Homer Drew with Bryce and Scott as well.
Richard trying to make a name for himself here in Minnesota. Has his team playing well, trying to go for their 8th win on the season.
He's taking a page out of his father's playbook. Full court pressure, create offense, out of defense.
Here's King. Hard foul again, and will go to the line. Joey King, the transfer from Drake, the sophomore.
Right on key. Right on cue. The steal off the bad pass, and King trying to flush it down. Good hustle by Hill, preventing the basket.
That'll be Hill's second. King making the free throw. Of course, did not have to sit out the year after transferring from Drake. Immediately eligible because of a illness in the family. A hardship was granted towards King, and well, he's a big part of this Gopher squad this year.
This is the danger when you play Minnesota. You have to battle their pressure for 40 minutes, and you may handle it well for a while, and then you have 2 or 3 turnovers, and all of a sudden the lead grows to double digits. But right there, Minnesota got a little anxious after the turnover.
Homasi into the game. For the Gophers, as it's King, Matthew, Walker, and also Austin Hollins for the Gophers. For New Orleans, Darren Becker, Bourgeois, Hill, Mack, and McPherson. And an illegal screen here by Kevin Hill, and that's a big foul. That's going to be his 3rd. Foul away from the ball, and New Orleans with 4 consecutive turnovers. The Gophers right now in the midst of an 8-0 run. And Terrence Sion will come in for Hill.
BJ, what you play for over the course of a game, you figure that there's going to be about 7 spurts that you're going to have. So if you can win those 7 spurts during the course of the game, you can come out on the higher end at the end of the night. Right now, Minnesota has won 3 out of those 4.
And Joey King getting it done from the perimeter. Minnesota with the big lead, as New Orleans will be going to the line when we return. So the Gophers exploding here, have a 36-15 lead here on New Orleans as they're shooting for their 8th win of the year.
McPherson of McDonald's. It's Kiss Cam time, presented by TCF Bank.
The Gophers with a 36-15 lead here on the Privateers with 3:51 to play in the first half. Of course, it is Richard Pitino's first year here at Minnesota, but also his staff in their first year too as well. Former player Ben Johnson here for the Gophers, along with Dan McHale and Kamani Young.
All of them have connections in some way. As you mentioned, Ben Johnson played here. Dan McHale was a manager at Kentucky when Coach Pitino's father was coaching there, and then coached with Kevin Willard at Seton Hall. Kamani Young actually came with Richard Pitino from FIU. So the roots go deep for this coaching staff.
At the line here with Tredarius McPherson. It's the first game of the year with an injury, but has since played in every game. Now for the scoring today for New Orleans so far, a lot of the points have been in the paint. And in fact, now 2 of 5 from the foul line. And outside of the paint, just the paint, they are 0 for 6. And McPherson able to knock down a couple of free throws there, and will be spelled by Tevin Broyles.
BJ, that goes with the trend of Minnesota this year. Their field goal percentage for teams on the three-point is only 29%. They're doing a great job of taking away the three.
Inside, Walker gets his own rebound, muscles it up, and down. Walker now with 7. 12 turnovers so far by New Orleans. Minnesota's been able to capitalize that into 21 points. Here's Bourgeois.
As we say that, they get their first 3 of the night off of excellent penetration.
A lot of contact beyond the arc. As Matthew will try to work it in from the wing. Walker in the paint has it taken away by New Orleans. The Privateers with numbers, 3-on-2. Minnesota with some good get back.
New Orleans very aggressive in their man-to-man. As you mentioned before, Mark Schlesinger grew up in Bloomington, Indiana. He talked about going to IU games and watching Coach Knight. He's adopted some of that same man-to-man principles.
In fact, he even told us before the game he wasn't sure how to handle the elevated court like Coach Knight, if he was going to have to sit down, grab a chair, or go sit down in the dugout. And the Privateers get a bucket inside again. 16-point game nearing the 2-minute mark in the first half.
New Orleans gives a different look after the made basket, back into a 2-3.
Walker underneath, a little too close. Broyles out with it. King leading the way for the Gophers with 8. Walker has 7 for the Privateers. Corey Dixon with 7. Here's Darren Becker. Now Matthew. On the side, there's Hollins. Now King, he's wide open. Loose ball picked up by the Gophers. And this one is going to stay with Minnesota with 1:06 to go here in the first half.
Minnesota substitution number 1, Andre Hollins, and 10 out of
There's Coach Schlesinger really working the sideline here. And he's a coach that really, as you can tell when he walked into the arena here today, he greeted the student section for Minnesota. He really tries to soak up the atmosphere no matter where he's at.
Well, he was trying to make friends with the student section. I don't know if that works, but you can see on that last graphic or the last animation, he definitely is an extra defender out on the floor when the ball swings to his side.
Now they work the bench here a little bit. Going back, Darren Becker was fouled. He's in his third season here at New Orleans. He traveled around quite a bit, was actually an assistant at Northwestern State where he got a start out of the 1-and-1. The Privateers miss on the front end. It still remains a 16-point game inside of a minute to play in the first half. Oshniks. Boy, a sweet stroke there by Oshniks.
Textbook ball movement against the pressure. Ball doesn't hit the floor side to side. You hit the middle and you get an easy shot.
Oshniks with his first field goal a moment ago. And he's really a talented shooter from about that range. Actually played on the Latvia national team. Prepped in Illinois. And the junior shooting about 46% from the field on the season.
It's Minnesota pressure. Another different look out of the 2-3. Good patience by New Orleans. Absorb the first blow, keep the ball moving.
8-second difference between the shot and the game clock. And the rebound comes down to the Gophers. Here's Hollins. Hamasi will be fouled as he looked to take it to the hoop. Stops the clock with 5 seconds to go here in the first half. And Maverick will be at the line to shoot a pair. See his numbers on the season, 55% from the field, 78% from the line. And of course, getting some more minutes here today, Malik Smith, the transfer from Florida International, who came with Coach Pitino here to Minnesota, not playing today because of a bad right ankle. So the minutes being spread around a little bit more here today. And here come the Privateers. Gill drives it in, will be fouled. And good attack there by Kristavius Gill with just 1.2 to go in the first 20.
A little over aggressiveness by Minnesota. Run out.
From the line, New Orleans here in the first half, 3 of 7, while Minnesota's 13 of 16. And that'll be the end of the first half. So Minnesota shooting for their 8th win of the season. They've got a 41-23 lead here at the half. It's been a balanced attack for the Gophers offensively. They've got 7 players with 4 or more points and being paced by Joey King's 8-7 for Maurice Walker. When we come back, halftime festivities here from Williams Arena as you're watching college basketball here on ESPN3.
What Jimmy V has done, the whole foundation has brought such a level of hope to the families and the patients that are actually going through it. When you have people like that that are trying to fix it and cure it, that's an amazing group.
Help us beat cancer. The V Foundation awards 100% of direct donations to fund cancer research. Operating expenses are paid for by an endowment fund.
What Jimmy V has done, the whole foundation has brought such a level of hope to the families and the patients that are actually going through it. When you have people like that that are trying to fix it and cure it, that's an amazing group.
Help us beat cancer. The V Foundation awards 100% of direct donations to fund cancer research. Operating expenses are paid for by an endowment fund. Log on to jimmyv.org or call 800-4JIMMY-V to vote. With Rich Savosek, this is BJ Shaven here at Williams Arena. And the V Foundation, Rich, has meant so much to so many people, but they're still trying to find a cure, and they need your help.
Oh, Coach V wanted to leave a legacy of love, a legacy that would help other people. And the Jimmy V Foundation has done exactly that. It has battled cancer. It has helped the research monies flow in. And only time will tell till we actually do beat cancer.
Well, let's take a look at this week's news and notes. And there was quite a buzz in Lansing, Michigan earlier this week, in which North Carolina defeated Michigan State 79-65 as part of the Big Ten ACC Challenge.
Tom Izzo not very happy with the toughness of his Spartan team, but how about North Carolina? Jekyll and Hyde. They lose to Belmont, lose to UAB, but they knock off Louisville and Michigan State.
The rest of the challenge, well, it was a draw between the Big Ten and ACC. Kind of shows you the power of the two leagues.
Well, Iowa, a lot of young kids, but led by Aaron White, who reaches 1,000 points. And Minnesota knocks off Florida State with an impressive defensive performance.
New faces, new places this year. A realignment of the Power Six.
Coaches changed at UConn. Coach Ali doing an excellent job. Has them undefeated. Cincinnati hasn't missed a beat. How about Pittsburgh, Syracuse? Pittsburgh, Jamie Dixon, not talked a lot about, but he always has the Panthers in the hunt.
And out on the West Coast, the Pac-12 Conference, a lot of success so far, and a battle of unbeatens earlier today. UCLA went to 8-1 as they fell to Missouri, who still remains unbeaten, 80-71, but a lot of strength right there.
Well, Arizona should be the #1 team in the country. Sean Miller's outstanding backcourt of Nick Johnson and T.J. McConnell. Dana Altman doing an outstanding job at Oregon. How about Tad Boyle? The Buffs out-rebounding opponents by 10 a game.
Well, when we come back, we'll have more here from Williams Arena as you're watching college basketball here on ESPN3.
Here is your scoring at halftime for Minnesota. Auto Ocean 6 points, Milwaukee 7, Austin Hollins 5, Andre Hollins 5, DeAndre Matthew 5, and Maverick Issac 5. Joey King at 41 for Minnesota. For New Orleans, Darren Becker 2 points. Dennis Bourgeois 3, Kevin Hill 2, Isaac Mack 4. For Darius Pearson had 2 points, 7 for Corey Dixon, 2 for Terrence Sion, and 1 for Christavius Gill. 23 for New Orleans, 3 personal fouls on Kevin Hill.
(41-23) Minnesota with a lead on New Orleans. Yes, it is very cold and wintry as you're looking at a picture of downtown Minneapolis as we take a look at these scores from the top 25 across the country, and really a tight one in Boulder, Colorado, in which 6th-ranked Kansas has a 1-point lead here in the first half against the Buffs.
Bill Self not happy with his point guard play. Starts Frank Mason today in place of Nadir Tharp. Kansas is a young team still trying to find their way.
How about the Wisconsin-Marquette matchup? You've got Wisconsin leading at 55-46 that game into the late half. And then, of course, another wild one. UMass, 105 points they scored today, but they just outlasted BYU. When we return here from Williams Arena, we'll have halftime highlights, statistics, and more. You're watching college basketball here on ESPN3. (41-23), and they are enjoying all sorts of sports up here in Minnesota. College basketball indoors. The Gophers doing quite well here in the first half, Rich.
It was all about defense for Minnesota in that first half. 21 points off of turnovers. They were able to speed the Privateers up and create offense.
As we take a look at the first half highlights here, Minnesota using a lot of their defense to create a lot of their offense.
Off the steal, they get an easy one by Matthew. And then they make the extra pass. And Ahamisi hits the three. And then the extra pass again for an easy three. It was defense and conversion from defense to offense as we see Matthew with a three-point play. Breaking the press, textbook, side to side, hit the middle. Ocean X delivered.
As we take a look at the first half statistics, you see the field goal percentage. Minnesota 52% from the field, 4 of 10 from downtown. But of course, at the foul line, Minnesota, they want to win that battle game in, game out. They're doing that here so far this afternoon. And look at the points off and turnovers, 21 so far for the Golden Gophers. When we come back, it'll be time for the second half as Minnesota, striving for their 8th win of the year, have the advantage here through the first 20. Welcome to Jimmy V Week for Cancer Research on ESPN as we continue our commitment to the V Foundation and Jim Valvano's dream to defeat cancer. The second half about ready to get underway. Right now, Minnesota with a commanding 41-23 lead here on the Privateers of New Orleans. A lot of history here at Williams Arena. And this team trying to make its mark, and so far they put up numbers thus far through the first 9 games. They're averaging, Rich, close to 80 points per contest, which is the highest through 9 games since 1990. And they've been able to do that with some defense, and they stress deflections here.
Well, one of the stats that he brought along with him from his father, and he always talked about deflections, try and get 35 or more tips a game. Now that's a tip or a steal, and only have 8 blow-bys a game. Well, let's take a look at that first half. In the first half, they had 19 deflections, so they're already over halfway there, and only gave up 4 blow-bys. What I mean by blow-bys is when the offensive player gets by the defender and gets all the way to the rim. Only 4 times that happened in the first half. Thus, Minnesota with an 18-point lead based on that defense.
Well, the Gophers have 9 steals. It's the 7th time this season they've had, 8 or more steals in a game. And for New Orleans, you know, they've got a tough stretch coming up on their schedule. But here trying to find some sizzle here at Williams Arena in the second half.
We'll be back in the Big Ten environs later this month when they play Michigan State on the 28th.
On the floor to begin the late half for New Orleans, it'll be Darren Becker, Bourgeois, Mack, McPherson. And for Minnesota, Oshniks, Walker, the Hollins, Austin and Andre, and then Matthew. And there's a foul called on the interior as this one goes against Oshniks.
The key for New Orleans is to be patient in the half court. You're not going to get it all back at once. It's got to be possession by possession and try and space the Gophers out, make the defense chase you so you can open up drives to the inside.
If there were such a thing as time of possession, New Orleans would really have owned that here in the first half. They've worked the shot clock all the way down.
They had 8 offensive rebounds in that first half, but were only able to get 6 points out of that offensive rebounding effort.
There's Mack with 5 on the shot clock. Bourgeois will step back. In and out. And here come the Gophers in transition. That's Matthew. Boy, he took it right at Matt Derenbecker. And this one turned over by the Privateers.
Matthew in transition. New Orleans a little bit slow in getting back. Matthew reads it, is able to get all the way to the rim, and great use of his shoulders to prevent the shot blocker.
Andre Hollins hand checked on the baseline. And McPherson will pick up the foul. That's going to be his first. And now a foul called away from the ball. An illegal screen called on Maurice Walker. That's going to be Walker's third.
It's the responsibility of the cutter to get close to the screener, not to the screener to move to the defender. Walker tried to help out his teammate, got caught by referee Eric Curry.
Derenbecker at the high post. Wait, goes right at Walker. We mentioned those 3 fouls. Here's Hollins from 17. Bourgeois with a hard fake and shot.
Minnesota a little slow in defensive conversion. New Orleans taking advantage.
And since the Privateers picking it up a little bit, amazing what a couple of make baskets will do for you. As Oshniks at the top trying to roll it in, nearly taken away. Hollins from the corner. A big answer from Andre Hollins in the corner. Minnesota, we mentioned, has some 3-point shooters. They've got the top 3 shooters from 3-point range returning from last season. As Dixon got a great feed there from Isaiah Mack. Now the Gophers, when it comes to offensive sets, Coach Pitino wanting his team to really call their own plays on the floor, not look over to the bench as Oshniks fires the 3. And Walker goes inside. He's very strong. And Walker now with his 9th point of the night. And this one just thrown away. It was deflected, though, by Minnesota right in front of the Gopher bench.
This is called clearing space by an aircraft carrier.
The space really got cleared. And here come the Gophers. Here's Hollins. Boy, great feed from DeAndre Matthew. Inside Dixon. Each team exchanging buckets.
Now, both teams very interested in picking up in backcourt. Neither has done a good job here in the second half of converting to the front court.
19-point game. 3:27 into the second half. As the Privateers work with Isaiah Mack. Drives into the lane. Dixon picks up the loose ball and is fouled. And there's an injured Privateer on the court, as Dixon might have went up over the top, and Walker just picked up his fourth. As Isaiah Mack hit the ground hard.
BJ, they need Isaac Mack to stay in the game, because he has been able to break through this press and get to the rim thus far here in the second half.
Big foul, though, on Maurice Walker, the 6'10 junior out of Ontario, Canada, as Dixon toes the line. Let's take a look at the foul again.
See Mack drawing some shirt.
There was a no call when Mack drove it in there, but there was a foul when Dixon took it to the hoop.
The second one, it actually should have been called for the first one. Didn't touch him with his hands, but he got a nice little bump down below.
1 out of 2 from the line for New Orleans. Now the three on the other end by Austin Hollins. Austin with 8 in the game. Minnesota now with 6 threes in the contest. As the Gophers can really score it in transition. Here's Mack. The fade goes through for Isaiah Mack. He now has 6 in the game. Joey King in for Walker, trying to post up. Now here's Oshnick. And the rebound to Hollins. Strong putback by Andre Hollins. He's got 12 in the contest. And right away, New Orleans getting back as Dixon gets another quick deuce. He's got 14 to lead all scorers. Here's Andre from the top. Bring it up for Andre Hollins. I think he's in that zone.
He's feeling it.
Take a look at the three-point numbers. And here comes Minnesota, 3-on-2. Matthew, the lob. Oh! This place is going nuts, and rightfully so. A foul there called on Minnesota. Andre Hollins and Austin Hollins. They get a little mix of Matthew as they go high to Austin Hollins. Minnesota with the big advantage here on New Orleans.
This is called trusting your point guard. As we watch off of the steal, you're going to see Hollins give it to Matthew right there. He knows if he gives it to him, he's going to shift the defense, and a good point guard will give it back for the finish.
Has to be a top 10 nominee as Austin Hollins climbs the ladder.
Just leaves you speechless.
How to fire up a crowd 101. Now from the corner, New Orleans back into it. They get the rebound. Does Terrence Sion. And now a foul here on Austin Hollins. You know, the Hollins have combined for 15 of Minnesota's 19 points here in the second half. Andre with 10. Austin with 5. As the Gophers have extended their lead to 24.
We talked about it in the first half, BJ. New Orleans had chipped away. They had cut it to 16, looked like they were getting back in it, and then Minnesota spurts with 8 quick points.
Now here's Andre Hollins. Good defense that time by the Privateers. Out ahead, Gill. And the rebound to Kevin Hill. And he is fouled on the play. Andre Hollins will pick up the foul. That'll be his 3rd.
Good hustle by Kevin Hill in transition. Draws the foul on the offensive rebound.
Ahan Misi into the game as he'll check in for Andre Hollins, who off to sit now, as we mentioned, with those 3. Privateers will play it in with Broyles. Kind of lob it up, and it will stay with New Orleans. And as the Gophers shooting right at 57% from the field. An amazing number, but they've had a lot of high percentage shots here in the second half. And this one will stay with New Orleans. 20 on the shot clock. Privateers in the bonus the rest of the way. As Darren Becker will now come in for Kevin Hill. And this one kicked out by Hollins. It's been tough for the Privateers to get this one in play, Rich.
Well, you're in that dead corner, which is the toughest spot on the floor to inbounds basketball.
Now out to Darren Becker. Now they'll set up shop with Mack. Trying to work against this zone that they really do a lot of trapping out of. Now Bourgeois. How about Bourgeois, his 2nd triple of the game.
Great recognition by Darren Becker, knowing catch it in the middle, look opposite.
Here's King on the block. Joey bailing it out. Now the fade. Left it short. Hollins could not get the put back down. And here come the Privateers. To go back inside. That's Sion. Got his own rebound back. Still trying to work it home. Can't get it down, but the putback is there for Tevin Broyles.
Love the battle of Sion rubbing off on his teammates.
King going to work on Sion, will square. With the left hand. Boy, Joey King showing you he can do it not only outside but inside as well. He's now in double figures with 10.
Everything Minnesota does on the defensive end, BJ, is predicated on great ball pressure. whether it's trying to take away the inbounds pass or hawking the dribble.
Darren Becker left open. He can hit that shot. And a timeout will be taken by New Orleans here. 11:27 to go. Minnesota leads at 62-44, but the Privateers starting to get fired up from the outside.
Get on your feet. It's time again for the Holiday Oakland basketball toss. Catch the special black ball. You'll win a $100 gift card, courtesy of Holiday Station Stores. Follow me. Throw the lucky ball. Congratulations for a $100 gift card from Holiday Station Stores and Gopher Basketball.
Minnesota, here's what they've got coming up after today. South Dakota State coming up on the 10th. Then, of course, UNO, Texas A&M, Corpus Christi. The Big Ten portion of their schedule, it finally hits us just 3 games away as when Minnesota will open up against Michigan and Purdue, both here at Williams Arena.
You know, when you're a first-year head coach at a program, it is always nice to get your first 2 league games at home so that you can get your feet wet in the friendly confines of Williams Arena and get a little confidence going.
There is Coach Patino. You know, one of the things that he talked to us about was the fact that he said being such a young coach, and he realizes where he's at, the position he's at, but he's earned where he's at. He said he tried to control everything, but one of the things he's trying to relinquish is the offensive sets. As you look at Maverick Ahamisi, take it to the hoop and will get fouled, but he lets the players now trying to get them to call the offensive sets. We'll see what Minnesota does offensively when we return.
I urge all of you to enjoy your life, the precious moments you have, to be enthusiastic every day, to keep your dreams. I urge all of you to enjoy your life, the precious moments you have, to be enthusiastic every day, to keep your dreams alive.
It's the start of Jimmy V Week here on the ESPN family of networks. Here's some cancer facts. 1 in 2 men and 1 in 3 women will develop cancer in their lifetime. 2013, 1.6 million new cases of cancer will develop. And of course, 13.7 million American cancer survivors are alive today in the United States. And really one that kind of struck me was it's the second most common cause of death in children in the United States today. Of course, all part of Jimmy V Week. Over $100 million raised since the Jimmy V Foundation was established back in 1993. So Minnesota at the line in a commanding lead here at 63-44, make it a 20-point advantage. That's going to be the 15th made free throw for the Gophers. We were talking a moment ago, Rich, about how Coach Pitino is trying to relinquish some control his first season here for Minnesota as Darren Becker hits the three. But he's talking about the offensive sets and the play calls. What's he talking about?
Well, it's so easy for a coach to overcoach and want to call everything. But when you do that, then your players start looking over to the bench for everything. And what he's trying to get his guys to do is, hey, here's our sets that we're going to run for the game. You call them. You know what they are. It's called trusting your players to do the right thing. And when your players can do that, you grow as a team. And, you know, as he mentioned earlier, they'll have 40 different plays in as they get into Big Ten play. So it's important that his point guards, that Matthew understands it's his show, it's his game. And Darren Becker saying that, hey, wait a second, it's my game. The big guy showing why he was very highly recruited out of high school, went to LSU, and then transferred to Dayton, and ended up back home in New Orleans.
Privateers on a 14-4 run. Halfway through the second half here, as Minnesota will turn it over. Take a look at Darren Becker measuring and measuring and measuring.
A great jab step puts King back on his heels, creates space, and he knows what to do with it.
Timeout here taken by Minnesota as Privateers are trying to hustle their way back into this game and getting help by Darren Becker. He has 13 points.
BJ, we've talked about Minnesota and their history, but New Orleans has some great heritage when it comes to basketball. Tim Floyd had a tremendous run at New Orleans. Benny Dees, John Brady, the former LSU head coach who went to the Final Four, was an assistant for Tim Floyd at New Orleans when they had maybe the best stock clerk ever in college basketball. And I'm talking about 6'11" Irvin Johnson, not Magic Johnson, but Irvin Johnson, who played 13 years in the NBA, including a stop here in Minnesota.
Quite a history there for the Privateers. And it's been tough for a program that's now playing in the Southland Conference. You know, there's talk of them moving down to Division III to Division II, now back to Division I as they drive it and finish it with Isaiah Mack, and really starting to show some of that resiliency. It's a 12-point game as Andre Hollins is fouled, as New Orleans has scored on the last 6 possessions to make this ball game pretty interesting.
One thing they've done all night long is when they break the press, they attack the rim. In the first half, they weren't able to finish as much, but right there, Mack completes the play.
To the line with Andre Hollins. Scored 21 points the other night against Florida State. As you look at Isaiah Mack sitting. And Andre now 2 of 3 from the line. A little bit better now. It's 75% on the day. Lead grows back to 13 with 9:40 to go.
When New Orleans cut it in the first half, Minnesota responded with defense and a spurt. See if New Orleans is able to handle the pressure and get a good shot on this possession.
Devin Broyles coming in for Mack. Now here's Darren Becker. He's had the hot hand for the Privateers. Bourgeois. Fancy footsteps, but
Well, that's
Went wide left.
that's one that Bourgeois maybe wanted back. He had Darren Becker open on the wing. One more pass. Feed the hot hand.
Matthew to the wing. Boy, measuring and taking that one is Ellenson. And King with the board. He'll be tied up by Dixon, who will just take it away. 3-on-2 opportunity for the Privateers. And a goaltending call here against Wally Ellenson. No surprise he could get up for that. For a guy who won gold at the 2013 Pan Am Games in the high jump.
This is just Dixon just saying, hey, I'm taking my ball. And he gives it to the guard, knowing that the guard will make the right play.
And this one will stay with Minnesota. It's an 11-point game with 8:40 to go. And since that dunk by Austin Hollins here early on here in the second half, New Orleans has really responded.
Well, credit that to Mark Schlesinger. He's done a good job of keeping his team's composure and not getting out of whack on the offensive end. They've been patient in the half court. They've attacked when they had the opportunity.
They've outscored Minnesota 18-5 as the ball goes out. 28 on the shot. Minnesota will hold on to it.
Just giving Darren Becker a breather as we near the 8-minute timeout. We can't keep that young man on the bench for very long.
And coming in his place is Terrence Sion. Now Matthew at the controls. Hard spin. Wanted an and one opportunity, but won't get it. As DeAndre Matthew fouled on the play. As the foul.
Defensively, you got to move your feet, keep your hands up in the air.
So Minnesota trying to improve here. Since Hollins dunked, just 1 of 8 from the field, make it 1 of 9. And the rebound to New Orleans.
Loose balls are going New Orleans' ways. In the first half, it was Minnesota's ball. New Orleans here in the second half have beaten the Gophers to all loose balls.
New Orleans trying to get the lead down to single digits. Here's Dixon. Can't get it down. And Sion had it deflected away by Hollins, and we're tied up possession arrow. We'll give it to Minnesota. So the Gophers will have the ball. They had a 24-point lead. It's now down to 11. As the Gophers have the advantage. They're having fun everywhere here in Minnesota, including down the hill. 65-54, Minnesota with a lead. New Orleans, here's their upcoming schedule. They take on Champion Baptist at home. Then they're on the road at UTEP to face their one-time head coach there at New Orleans and Tim Floyd and the Miners of UTEP. Then at Michigan State, Nicholls State, McNeese State. That's a long road trip ahead here for the Privateers.
I'm talking with Mark Schlesinger earlier yesterday. You know, we asked him about Texas El Paso. Tim Floyd was going to return that game to New Orleans. He said, no, they played Tulane earlier this year. They won't play us.
Foul called as Minnesota tried to take it strong to the hoop here with Andre Hollins. And this is the bread and butter here for the Gophers. Get to the foul line.
Now, Coach Pitino talks about the main stat on the offensive end, and that is make more free throws than your opponent attempts. They have done that thus far tonight.
Andre now with 17 points. Dixon will check out for New Orleans. Darren Becker back in as Andre Hollins hits both free throws. Now some pressure.
And New Orleans doing a much better job here in the second half. Only 2 turnovers as opposed to 12 in the first half.
Now Darren Becker to work. In the paint. And the rebound to Hollins. Here's Matthew slicing through the defense, and he'll get the bucket. Wow, what a play by DeAndre Matthew. And a foul down on this end by King. How about DeAndre Matthew? Started his career at Morehead State as a walk-on. Then transferred to a couple of junior colleges before landing here in Minnesota.
It's not the size of the dog in the fight. It's the size of the fight in the dog. And Matthew not afraid to challenge the big guys inside.
King just picked up the foul. That's his third. And Dixon will return to the lineup here for New Orleans. So on the floor for the Privateers, Darren Becker, Bourgeois, McPherson, and Dixon. A 14-point game. Take a look at the field goal numbers, percentages. New Orleans really picking it up here in the late half from downtown as well, but the Gophers have owned the defense on the interior. Dixon tracks down the board, and here come the Privateers once again. When you're down by 14, it's good to stay with this type of offense here for New Orleans.
There's plenty of time, and you got a guy like Darren Becker who can score it. Oh.
And a foul on Dixon as King is reached in upon. That's just the 6th team foul called against New Orleans. Dixon's going to pick up his third.
Darren Becker showing you an array of skills, making threes, drives to the basket. Unfortunately, that one doesn't get down, and Dixon called for the reach.
So Minnesota, who had a lead at one time at 24, saw it dwindle down to 11. But it put a charge back into it offensively. Led by DeAndre Matthew and the Hollins. Matthew will hold it in. Hollins from the wing. And Minnesota will keep it alive for a moment. Here's McPherson. I had it taken away, and New Orleans will grab it right back. and they'll get the deuce, and Austin Hollins, well, he's in pain, grabbing the back of his head. He might have hit the floor.
Not sure if he hit the floor or caught an elbow in the melee. This is a scrappy New Orleans team. They have no quit. And Coach Mark Schlesinger has done an excellent job in the second half of playing to their tempo. Watch how Hollins, he hits his head on the knee of Darren Becker as he goes down.
And so Austin will check out of the ball game here for now. 10 points so far on the afternoon. Andre Hollins leading all scorers with 18. And Minnesota will turn it over.
Privateers in a nuisance press, just trying to check to see if Minnesota will make a unforced error, and they do, turning it over.
Timeout taken here. Just a 30-second timeout, 5:11 to play here in the contest. A 12-point lead as the Gophers called for the timeout right there, leaving them with 2. Take a look at Austin Hollins here, the senior from Germantown, Tennessee.
You see Darren Becker come over, and as Hollins going down, he hits his head right on his knee. That's not going to feel good in the morning.
Austin may have to sit for a while as they're running the, looks like they ran a test on him too as well, just to make sure that everything's all right.
The big question for this Minnesota team when they get into Big Ten action is how will they handle when the game is played in the half court. They're very good when it's full court tempo, but when you're going to grind it out against a team like Wisconsin or Michigan State, you've got to be a little bit better, and that's one of those things that they continue to work on.
Dixon at the high post, working on King. He'll be pushed by King, will pick up his 4th. And to the line with Corey Dixon. Maurice Walker set to check back into the game here for the Gophers. He's playing with 4.
BJ, if the Privateers can get it within 10, foul trouble may become a factor with Walker with 4, King with 4.
Now 7 of 14 from the line today as New Orleans, as Dixon hits the free throw. He now has 15 in the game. There are 3 Privateers in double figures. Along with Dixon, there's Darren Becker with 13 and 10 for Mack. Darius McPherson will come into the contest now for Tevin Broyles.
Privateers going to show a little diamond and 1 3/4 court pressure. Space the floor if you're Minnesota. Look to hit the middle.
The Gophers now will reset the shot up. Amisi goes to Oshniks.
New Orleans elects to stay in the zone.
Inside of 5 on the shot clock. This one out of bounds. 3 on the shot clock as Minnesota will have to put it in play from underneath their own hoop. Now a foul called away from the ball. This one goes against Dixon, and that's going to be a big foul. That's going to be his 4th. So now if you're Coach Schlesinger, you got to sit him for a little bit. Tough decision to make, but he's going to make it as Kevin Hill will now come back into the game.
You're almost to the 4-minute timeout, so you put him on the bench, let him catch his breath, and take the TV timeout, and then be ready for the rest of the game.
Here's Oshniks at the line. On the 1-on-1, misses the front end. And this one is off the foot of Darren Becker. And Minnesota will have a fresh 35. A missed opportunity there by the Privateers. 10-point ball game. Let's take a look at the offensive rebound numbers. Both teams pride themselves on hitting the offensive glass. From the top. And the rebound to Darren Becker. And Minnesota had the explosive dunk just a little bit into the second half. Since that time, they've gone 2 of 14 from the field with 5 turnovers. Meanwhile, New Orleans on a 23-9 run. Inside to Hill, make it 25-9, and it's an 8-point ball game with 3:30 to play.
Credit that to the patience and intelligence of Issac Mack. He went back and forth, probed the defense until he got what he wanted. Hill inside.
The Gophers had a lead of 24. Here's Matthew. Oshnick tries to go inside to Walker, but he's fouled before he can get the ball by Hill. And that'll lead us to a timeout on the floor. 3:10 to play. Minnesota holding this 8-point lead here on New Orleans.
Today's Heart of the Game Award winner, Boston Scientific, will make a donation to the University of Minnesota and Black's Children's Hospital.
69-61 Minnesota with the lead here on New Orleans, but the Privateers have been able to fight back here, Coach, by some good work offensively.
A well-drawn-up offensive set by Coach Schlesinger. Mack coming off the high screen. He went back and forth until he got what he wanted, which was Kevin Hill on the roll, and slow rotation by Ahamisi gives Hill the easy basket. Now that offensive set they've ran here for the last 3 or 4 minutes has prevented Minnesota from double teaming the basketball. It's created longer defensive slides, which has enabled New Orleans to get some easier looks.
At the line with Walker, able to can the first free throw. We'll get the bonus here. Back to a 9-point lead, and there's the headgear that Kevin Hill wears. After making that bucket and after the timeout, Dixon returns to the lineup. And Walker hits both free throws. It's back to a 10-point game, 3:10 to play. This is the largest crowd that New Orleans has played in front of so far this season. Early on, Minnesota got after him defensively, but this New Orleans team has really settled in quite nicely here in the second half. As you mentioned, running some good offensive sets, making some good decisions.
Now, Coach Pitino makes the adjustment. They weren't handling the high ball screen, so he goes zone.
Here's Darren Becker. Good defense inside by Walker. And Hollins, who returns to the ball game. Here's Andre Hollins inside. Oshnick gets the deuce. Right back at you. New Orleans gets a quick 2. by McPherson, and the Privateers burn a timeout here. They'll be left with one with 2:27 to play. It's back to a 10-point game.
That's something that teams work on. Some teams execute it a little bit better than others. What I'm referring to is if you get scored at one end, you don't fret about getting scored on. You push it right back. And we can see after the missed shot that keeping your head up, point guards, keep your head up, see the guys in front of you. You got beat in transition, push it right back, see if they get beat in transition. Minnesota does. New Orleans gets a timeout, and they're right back in it.
Minnesota on the floor with Oshnick, Walker, Andre, and Austin Hollins, and Matthew. For New Orleans, it's Darren Becker, Bourgeois, Mack, McPherson, and Dixon. A couple of players in foul trouble for the Privateers.
Diamond press again by New Orleans. Hit the middle. Move the defense. This time New Orleans falls back into man-to-man.
Here's Andre Hollins being forced to use his left hand. Goes to the baseline. There's Oshnick again, and he'll go to the line to shoot two. That foul called on Darren Becker. That'll be his third. Oshnick's a 71% free throw shooter on the season, now with 9 in the game, 3 of 5 from the foul line. Now McPherson checking out. And coming back into the game is Isaiah Mack for the Privateers. 2:02 to play. Back to a 12-point lead. This one getting rather interesting. Again, if you're just tuning in late, Minnesota had built a 24-point lead. And in the second half, the Privateers have whittled this lead down to as close as 9. And Matthew back on the attack. And a technical we called on Matthew as he was interfered with Darren Becker, who was trying to put the ball in play.
A technical foul has been called on Corey Dixon.
And so New Orleans will get an opportunity to shoot some free throws here.
Matthew gets a little bit anxious after he makes a great finish with his left hand. You watch him try and sneak it from the outside. Well, you won't watch it. But he knocks the ball out of Darren Becker's hands as he was still standing out of bounds. There you go.
Darren Becker, who's the best free throw shooter statistically for New Orleans, goes 1 out of 2 from the line. In the lead at 13 with 1:40 to play. Minnesota pressing and really making the Privateers work here. And New Orleans.
They're going to fall back in the zone. Make him take some time off the clock.
Out of the wing, and a foul here called on Oshnick as Tevin Broyles was trying to drive it.
That's one of those, BJ. If you're Oshnick, it's more important just to keep the clock running. Don't give him an opportunity to get some points with the clock stopped.
5 Gophers in double figures today as Broyles makes his first free throw of the season. Had only attempted 1 prior to that shot. As Terrence Sion will come into the ball game here for Dixon. But again, the story, 5 Gophers make it 6 in double figures now. As Andre Hollins with 18, 11 for Walker and Matthew, and 10 each for Oshnick and Austin Hollins. Inside of a minute to play.
1 minute to play.
So the Gophers going to improve to 8-2 on the year. Well, they established themselves in the first half as Hollins from the top hits the three. His second make from downtown, now with 13 in the game. And the Privateers trying to get a substitution in with a 15-point game with 37 seconds to go.
It's good to see Hollins back in the game, knock down a shot after he had taken a blow to the back of his head.
And he can be a key contributor, no doubt. Austin Hollins showing that he's okay.
He's got the toughness of his father, Lionel Hollins, former NBA player, former head coach of the Memphis Grizzlies.
What do you think about Minnesota? 3 more games before they open up Big Ten conference play. You've seen a few Big Ten teams so far this season. How does Minnesota measure up, Rich?
Well, the one thing that you don't know from this game is the fact that Malik Smith didn't play. And he gives them another offensive threat, somebody who can stretch the defense. He had just started to understand his role here at Minnesota. You know, he had played for Coach Pitino at FIU, averaged over 15 points a game. And so his role there was much different. He was just starting to come into his own in that respect. So there's some work to be done. The 3 games before conference season will help them get into it. But the key is, I think, as Minnesota goes down the road in Big Ten action, they're going to have to be able to play and score in the half court. If they can keep teams sped up, they can be very successful. But how they perform in the half court situation is really going to determine how they do the rest of the season.
The Privateers out of timeouts. Here's Dixon. Has it taken away by Andre Hollins, and that should be that. Minnesota will improve to 8-2 on the year with a 15-point victory, led by 6 Gophers who finish in double figures as they knock down New Orleans here today, 80-65.
I love the fight by New Orleans. They got down early. They came back. They showed some patience. They've got good pieces. They're going to be good when they get into the Southland Conference action.
Well, it's a final here from Minneapolis. Again, the Gophers improved to 8-2 on the year with an 80-65 win over New Orleans. For Rich Savozic, I'm BJ Chapin saying so long from Williams Arena, where the final score is Minnesota 80, New Orleans 65. To watch this entire game on replay as well as other games on our family of ESPN networks, log on and watch ESPN.com or download the Watch ESPN app. This has been a presentation of ESPN.
Walker.